And welcome back, everyone. So, because the stars have aligned with my work schedule, I'm going to have Pokemon Day off. And you bet your ass. I've done it once before, but I don't do reactions very often on the channel anymore, but I will do a reaction to what we see in there because Generation 10 is coming out. Allegedly, it's supposed to be coming out. By all accounts, we know 99.999% is coming out. But I thought what let's do is kind of take a look back at the announcement days for previous generations, specifically 6 through 9. Those are the big ones we can talk about. And take, because the question is really going to be what we're going to see from the Generation 10 announcement trailer. And I thought what let's do is to go back and take a look at all the previous past trailers and see if we can kind of figure out what we're going to get, because this is also Pokemon's 30th anniversary. That's a big, like every time you hit the decade number, that's a big number. If you're lucky, you can get out 2 other generations in that meantime, but usually you don't. Normally you get like 1 other generation. Sometimes you can get 2. For example, Sun and Moon was Pokemon's 20th anniversary. And beyond that, they were still able to get Galar and Paldea out, 8 and 9 out. That said, it is kind of known that there was a little bit of a rush put on those guys, just a little bit. Normally, the good gap between years for how long you wait for another generation of Pokemon is about 4 years. If you can do it in 3, you can do it in 3, but most people kind of prefer about 4 years. That gives more than enough time to get your shit together all together. Okay, so with all that being said, let's take a look back into days of yesteryears. Let's look at what the Generation 6 trailer originally brought us. So we got Pikachu. Hello, everybody. Big news to share with the whole world. Pikachu basically does a thunderbolt off the Eiffel Tower, which reveals that Kalos was in Paris. And in essence, what this trailer ultimately gave us, and I'm even gonna turn down just a little bit more. I don't want it completely off, but what it gave us is it gave us a lot in the region. Our first look at the starters. I believe we even get to see them in game for a little bit. Yeah, we see Chespin come out there. Next, I believe was Fennekin, because that's the order the starters. Yeah, come in. I did like the fact too that there were different names and translations of the names with each reveal of the stars. I did like that quite a bit. But really, this was back in the day where it was really a game showcase. They were really showing off a lot of aspects of the game, from the 3 starters to some of the gyms, to showing off some of the locations. Not a lot of locations, whatever. And then they cap it off back when they were starting to do the 3D stuff with the reveal of the 2 legendaries, Yveltal and Xerneas, respectively. Now, we'll go through each one of these and basically ask the question, do I think that is what we're going to see with this next generation? And I don't personally think that's what we're going to get. By the way, if it's lagging in the background, I apologize. I don't think it's lagging, but we'll find out when the video is done. I don't think that's what we're going to get. And I'll explain more as we go through the generations. But the last time we got a real glimpse at the game itself in the announcement was Gen 8. We actually did see, go walking in the grass, some of just, walking around the towns a little bit. Galar, we didn't get really any. Paldea, we really didn't get any of that. We got a little bit of it, like in your house. Certainly, we sure got some landscape, absolutely. But most of the footage wasn't finalized at that point. It was really just kind of giving you an aspect of the game, or a perspective of the game, which is what it's supposed to do in general. So I don't really think we're going to be getting that kind of trailer. But what about Gen 7? Well, Gen 7 Sun and Moon was the 20th anniversary of the entire franchise. And of course now it's lagging because I decided to switch to OBS.
Celebrating.
Yeah, it's funny if I go to my OBS. Oh no, now it's still lagging a little bit. So which is why I don't do as many reactions as I normally do anymore. Ironically though, if I just don't focus on watch this through my OBS, it's fine. But yeah, I'm going to basically just skip all the way to most replayed, right around the 1 minute and 42 minute mark in 2016. Basically, because that entire thing was kind of a celebration of the 20 years of Pokemon. And then we get some art. We get a lot of art, them working on Sun and Moon. We even get a little bit of one Pokemon with Pikipek. Now that that was an exceptionally different announcement trailer than the rest of these things. And that's where I think a little bit of the concern might be for me, is that this isn't a standard year for Pokemon. This isn't Sword and Shield, Scarlet or Violet, X or Y. This is a anniversary year. And my concern is just going to be that a giant chunk of Generation 10's reveal trailer is just going to be, oh, remember this, remember that. And basically a little bit at the end where we're basically not getting anything but the names and maybe some art here or there. Because we do have precedent for that. So I would be concerned that that could be a problem. However, I'd also feel that they know the Terra League came out. They know the Terra League came out. So I feel like they kind of got to get ahead of that a little bit and kind of like, because things almost certainly did change from the Terra League. We almost know that for certain. So I feel like they got to get ahead of that a little bit and kind of give a little bit more than, they got to give more than just that. That's honestly my feeling, especially when you start hitting bigger and bigger anniversary numbers. 20 years, honestly, I can respect what they did there. I believe that was like 2 months later, they actually gave the actual trailer revealing the starters and the 2 legendaries. But the announcement trailer, they didn't do much with that for 20th year. But once you get to bigger years, larger and larger years, I feel like you kind of have to. You got to give us more than just an announcement with some art or whatever. You got to do at least what these last 2 generations did. Speaking of which, Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield actually, like I said, gave us quite a bit. We get full view of like the starting areas. There was the first town with first gym. And they say not actual game footage. It does make you wish it was. You can tell too it wasn't, because that was not rendered right. She did not look like she was standing on that thing. But then you get all these great landscapes at Galar, walking around the snow, being near a lake, which, I mean, just from the visual, that looked good. Water, surprisingly, isn't all that difficult for them, but other effects are, like trees for some reason. Quiet that down a bit. I don't know why it's as loud as it is. Then you get a bunch of battles and just showing things off, which is a good way to kind of just stoke people up without revealing anything. And obviously you get traversing through different locations, but then, you walk through a gym, and then it gets to the end where it's actually probably one of the better starter reveals we've ever had. You get these 3D animations, you meet Scorbunny, then Scorbunny sets the grass on fire, they meet Sobble, puts out the flames that Scorbunny did, and then you get, granted, fire didn't look that great, but still, and then you get Grookey, who regrew the grass. That was pretty good. Beyond that, they didn't show the legendaries. Still, it was a decent showcase for the game itself. And then you get to the final thing here with Scarlet and Violet. And Scarlet Violet starts off with, no joke, it's like a minute long. No, it's even longer than that. It's a minute and like 20 minutes long skit of this security guard. I believe this is supposed to be like Nintendo headquarters, Game Freak and all that. And then eventually you get the first shot of Paldea. You get the shot of the Academy. We know pretty much it was going to be open world. You can tell the way it's designed. Game footage not final, obviously. You get this grand, sweeping, epic music, and you see Pokemon just walking around. You get one of the things I do like is it really did show that even though the environment still had a lot to be desired, the Pokemon themselves looked great. Like there's a shot coming up here in a second. Not Blissey. Survivor. You can see the damn scales on Survivor in there. You can see even texture on Larvitar. The shine off Magnemite. The Pokemon, for all of Gen 9's flaws, looked great. It shows you a little bit of the Academy, shows you then a little bit of the villa that you stay at, your starting area. And then finally, I kind of like that little reveal too. Gave us the reveal of the stars with Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxley. So, with all that being said, what do I think Gen 10's announcement trailer is ultimately going to look like? It's a very, it's an interesting question to say the least. Because, again, I do worry it's going to be something more akin to Gen 7, where it's like, we're going to celebrate all these years, and it's like, okay, here's 20 seconds of something. But the last two generations, they didn't do that. They did, and honestly, I can't even remember like announcements for like Gen 4 or 5. That's how long ago those were. It was before the internet. I mean, it was the internet was around, sure, but it was really before the internet was really like everything. Uh, if I'm gonna go with my gut, if here's the thing, if we get that when we get Pokemon Presents, if it starts with a celebration of 30 years of Pokemon, then I'm gonna feel very confident that's not what we're getting for Gen 10. If it doesn't, I'm going to be very worried that's what we're going to get for Gen 10. That said, however, I have to believe they're going to show us the starters. I have to believe they're going to do that. I honestly don't think, though, they're going to show us the legendaries. If you noticed, in like the last 4 generations, we saw only one generation ever revealed the legendaries at the end of the announcement trailer. Not only that, they're not going to show us the box art either. What they will, though, show us, though, because of just how big and grand this next generation is supposed to be, I think they're going to show us a lot of like effects, landscape shots. Couple of the islands, not all of them. You're probably going to see the starting character, and then it's probably going to end with the starters. Is it impossible we could see the legendaries? No, I don't think it's impossible. Is it likely we could see the legendaries? I don't think it's likely. I think they save that for the next trailer, which, given this February, this game would come out in November. That means it's only 9 months away. The next trailer either drops probably in April or May. That's when the next trailer would drop. Because you got to give us time to sit with the new trailer. So my prediction for what we see in Gen 10, it's going to be the starters, guaranteed. But I think we're most likely just gonna get a big sweeping landscape shot. Maybe even see. I mean, I doubt they'll drop the map of the region early. Yeah, the Terra Leak map is out, but that's the Terra Leak map. That's also you can also tell too, that's an in-game map. That's not the art map that we get that we can usually break down and see how this a whole region is like designed. No, that's an in-game map. So yeah, and that's always honestly one of the things I always look forward to the most is looking at the map and trying to figure out where everything is. That's the thing I usually like the most. When like we're getting the new Pokemon Day and stuff like that, or when we're getting the new generations, is breaking all these things down. We're definitely not seeing any new Pokemon. If there's one thing you noticed in every one of those, save for weirdly enough the Gen 7 trailer, is that none of those revealed new Pokemon, save for the starters. So we're not seeing any new Pokemon except for the starters, and there's a slim 10% chance we can see the legendaries. But overall, I think what most people are expecting is what we're getting, assuming they don't do the whole celebrating 30 years attached to the Gen 10 thing. I really don't want that because it's going to eat up so much time from the reveal. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Later.